Hi guys, Drea from Aloha Plant Life here. So I was watering my plants the other day and I was thinking about how many things I didn't really know about watering when I first got into plants, and decided maybe it would be helpful to you guys if I made a series of kind of basically watering 101 videos covering a different topic in each of those videos. So that's what we are going to start doing here today. In this first video, I just want to cover super basics, like the different methods that you can do to water your plants. And then also, I really want to go even more basic than that and just talk about water in general and the different types of water and how they can affect plants, especially depending on the type of plant it is that you're watering. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So is all water created equally? No. The answer is no. No for you, no for your plants, no for anything. There are varieties of different types of water. Most of us are probably have city water. So I'm connected to the city's water system. So my tap water, it's outside of my control, obviously. It comes into my house just however it comes in from the city. And our tap water here is very hard. So it's got a lot of hard minerals in it and buildup and things of that nature. So I get a lot of scale on things and hard water spots. And that kind of water is typically not great for most plants. Most plants, some might tolerate it, but most plants don't want all of that junk that's in that water. And some plants will really suffer if I use that water on them. Now, some places, depending on where you live, you might not have access to the city's water system. You might be on, say, well water. Well water is definitely going to be less harsh on your plants typically than city water. So well water can be used on almost all types of plants, assuming that it is pretty pure. The only way to really know with well water would be to have it tested, which is something that you can look into doing. There are a lot of places that will test water for you. A lot of places sell filtration systems and everything, and as part of wanting to sell you on those, they test your water for free just to show you what's in your water. So you can find a way to find out exactly what's in your water if it's well water, but typically well water is going to be more pure than the city water. So beyond that, we then move on to filtered water. So as I mentioned, a lot of places will try to sell you on filtration systems. Filtered water is going to be better than your basic from the tap water, especially if you live in the city I do. So filtered water is what I water the majority of my houseplants with until recently. And recently I started getting distilled water, which is kind of the ultimate level if we're going from city water up to the luxury level of water. Distilled water is that top level. So filtration systems and filtering your water is going to make it better than the tap water, but still not going to get everything out of there. Distilling water is really the only way that you're going to get everything out of there and into a pure situation. So distilled water can be purchased usually at any of your local grocery stores, possibly even drugstores. Typically comes in a gallon jug like this, and then you just use this to water your plants. This is reserved really for very, very fussy plants. Typically, I don't use this. Well, like I said, I just recently got into this. I'm testing it out with some of my prayer plants, my Marantas, to see if it helps prevent some of the crisping leaf tips. And those crisping leaf tips happen because of the buildup of the salts and minerals in the water. They go into the plant and then they collect in the leaves on the tips, and that's what causes that. That's kind of like their way of displacing it. So that is why I am now trying the distilled water on them. Obviously, if you don't want to have to be buying distilled water because it can get annoying, it is more money you're having to spend, then maybe steer clear of some of those plants that require distilled water to look more perfect, because a little bit of crisping on your leaf edges on a Maranta is really not that bad, you guys. It's not like a super eyesore and the plant's not dying. So you can get away with using filtered water, which is what I have been using on my Marantas to this point. So those are kind of the basic types of water. And like I said, if you're going to have the hard water with all the minerals and salts, you really just need to keep an eye on your plants and see how they're reacting to that water. If they're reacting unfavorably, try filtering it. I just used it straight out of my fridge because my fridge has filtration built into it, but you could also buy one of those jugs with a filter built in that you fill with the tap water and helps filter it out. So now that we've talked about the different types of water available to water your plants with, I want to talk about the different methods there are to water your plants and kind of the pros and cons of each and when to use which one. So the two main methods of watering your plants are top watering and bottom watering. So let's start with top watering. Top watering simply means you're taking your water jug or whatever you're using to water your plants and you're just pouring that water directly onto the top of the soil's surface. It's then draining down through into that soil, soaking that soil through in order to water your plant. Always make sure you are pouring that water on evenly around the surface of the soil. Pause for a second, let it soak in, see if it reaches the bottom and starts dripping out the drainage holes. If it doesn't, give it some more slowly. And then eventually when it starts to drip through the bottom of those drainage holes, then you know you're good. Just let it sit there, finish draining the water out, and then dump that excess water out. Top watering is what most people do. It's what you're going to do most often, but sometimes top watering doesn't work. So some situations where top watering can be difficult is, for example, with my little piccolo banda peperomia over here. If you can see, you can't even really see the soil surface in there. It's just so packed in there, it's really hard to get in there to water. So I bottom water this plant because I probably would just waste water and make a mess if I tried to top water it. And yeah, I don't really feel like wasting water and making a mess. So that's an example. Another example of when top watering can be a problem is if you have a plant that has a lot of heavy drainage in it, because let's say it's a succulent and you need a lot of drainage in there so that it's not getting too much water to that plant because it doesn't need a lot of water. In that kind of situation, when you top water, the water may just run straight through the bottom and out of the bottom without actually wetting the soil down completely. That's another situation where top watering might not be ideal. Another thing that can happen, and it happened to me with this Syngonium Go Glow, when I first got it, it was packed so far up to the top of the pot that when I would go to try to top water it, the water would just run off the surface and over the sides of the pot and all over the counter. So I ended up having to actually remove some of the soils to stop that from happening. That's a simple solution. But you know, in certain situations, if the plant's just been potted too high, if you go to remove the soil, you may start exposing roots, so that's not an option. And maybe it's not ready to be repotted yet. So in that situation, top watering wouldn't be ideal either, and I would probably go to bottom watering. So actually, let's talk about bottom watering at this point. So bottom watering just constitutes taking some sort of vessel, filling it with water, and then setting the plant in there. Once you set it in there, the drainage holes are open, the soil is going to touch that water, and the soil is going to suck that water up and disperse it through capillary action all up through that soil in order to wet it down. When you're sitting the plant in there, keep an eye on it because depending on how dry it is, it could soak up all that water like that. In that case, you're going to need to add some more water to the bowl. You're going to check the top of the soil and see, is it starting to get moist? Then you're going to want to take it out of that water, set it aside, let any excess water drain out, and you should be good to go. This may seem like, hey, that's pretty simple to do. Like why wouldn't you just do that all the time? Well, there's some cons to it. One is depending on this type of soil and depending on how dry it is, sometimes you're not gonna get it fully soaked through enough by doing bottom watering. Another thing is that when you top water, you're actually also doing something else other than watering your plant. You're rinsing out any kind of mineral and salt buildups that are happening in the soil. So that water, as it goes through and wets down the soil and the roots, it flushes out those impurities that build up over time. If you were to only ever bottom water, then you're never washing out those impurities. So even if you do bottom water, at least once a month, you're going to want to flush the plant. So you're going to want to try to top water it, even if it means the water is going everywhere or whatnot. You want to try to get some water running through there to flush those deposits out before you go and bottom water it. Now you guys, these are typically the standard methods for watering your plants. However, there are some other more self-watering methods out there, but that's really a completely different video that I will get into at another time. So now that we've talked about those two main methods for watering your plants, let's talk about how often to water your plants. And the answer to that question is not simple. There is no one answer. I cannot tell you exactly when to water all of your plants. I can give you an idea, which I will in future videos, of different species of plants and how often you typically would need to water those species. But really, every plant's different. it varies drastically amongst different genuses of plants as to how often those plants are going to need to be watered. The best thing I can say is, one, do your research. Look up the new plants that you're buying and get an idea for what kind of watering needs that plant has. Two, watch videos here on YouTube. We constantly, all of us plant YouTubers, are talking about care tips for specific plants, whether it be a video just on that one type of plant, or if I'm just featuring it in a video like I am right now. Lots of times we will throw in some care tips, including watering habits, in those videos. So watch some videos, do some research, and get an idea. But the best thing you can do, guys, is to actually watch your plants. Try to look at your plants every day, see how they're behaving, see if they feel dry, see if they look droopy, and then decide, okay, it needs to be watered. After you've been doing it for a while, you learn which of your plants are going to need to be watered more frequently than others, but there's no simple answer for anybody to give you to say, here's exactly how often you need to water your plants. It also involves your environment, where that plant is placed. If my plant is placed in an east window and your plant is placed in a south window, it's going to be different. One is going to use up that water more quickly than the other. So just do your research, pay attention to your plants, and you will learn as you go. And that's basically all we're going to cover in this video, you guys. I'm going to keep these pretty short and sweet and simple for you. The next video we are going to do is covering underwatering and understanding what underwatering is and how to resolve underwatering if you are a chronic waterer or if you've just underwatered maybe one or two plants. So look forward for that one, and if you have not yet hit that like or subscribe button down below, please do so, and I'll see you guys again next time. Aloha!